Hey everybody, welcome to the Drop Lob Pod, episode 10. I'm joined with my co-host Nathan, and I'm Eric. Thank you for listening. Happy holidays, happy new year to everybody. We wanted to come to you with an episode before the start of the 2026 season. First of all, Nathan, hope you had a nice holiday break.
Yeah, pretty much just work as usual. Unfortunately, it's kind of what seems to be happening at my age. Edic's still in grad school, so I guess he's still on more of a school calendar schedule over there. But been having a nice holiday, hanging out with friends, family, and still been watching some tennis, although there's not too much on. Really excited for the season to get started back up this upcoming week, and I'll go ahead and let you take the lead. Let's talk about what happened this past week, and maybe let's look forward to the next season and see what we think is going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you know, we've been talking about the Battle of the Sexes match between Kyrgios and Sabalenka, and that happened today in Dubai with Kyrgios winning 6-3, 6-3. For those of you who didn't tune in, the court was, very interesting looking. There were no alleys. It was quite smaller on Sabalenka's side for Kyrgios to hit in. From what I saw, it didn't really seem like Kyrgios was going all out 100%, but he still was able to cruise through 3-3. Hit a lot of drop shots that Sabalenka was unable to, really do much with. She would get up to it and maybe slice it and then get past. Sometimes she got up there and didn't hit it. It seemed like the serve was a problem for her to deal with, especially on the ad side with the heavy kicker to her backhand, and then just like the pressure that he was applying coming to net, she didn't have many answers. So I think it was a successful event. We'll wait to see what the viewership was like, and ultimately, good notoriety for tennis. But I don't think either of us were surprised. I actually think the scoreline was similar to what we had predicted in a past episode.
Yeah, I believe, and I'm going to double check back on the last episode that one of us actually predicted the 6-3, 6-3 scoreline exactly, or about 6-4, 6-3. Relatively routine as expected. I would actually say, contrary to what most people think, that I think Nick did try a little bit harder than people think he did. Nick is a relatively effortless looking player in general. Like he has a very short backswing on his backhand. His forehand, he uses a lot of wrist, but he doesn't really step into it or put much of his body into it. He does obviously hit a lot of drop shots and get crafty and tends to get maybe disengaged, some would say, from a lot of matches pretty easily. So, I mean, obviously he's most likely not going 100% there, especially given the fact that he's had multiple major wrist surgeries over the past couple of years. They've kind of made it difficult for him to even go all out in a sanctioned ATP match, but I mean, I got to see the full second set. Admittedly, I did miss some of the first set, not realizing that I got the match on Tennis Channel or Tennis Channel Plus. But what I was most impressed by was Kyrgios because he only got one serve in this match. He kind of adapted like a first and a half serve, so to speak. Like it was very much a mixture of the speed of a first serve with the kick of a second. And the ball was kicking. For those that don't know, a kick serve is kind of in tennis, like for the second serve players try to make sure the ball goes in the box. They get the point started. For the first serve, you'll hit it more flat as hard as you can to try to get as much speed on the ball, but it's a little bit less accurate. For the second serve, you kind of hit across the ball to put more spin on it, so it's more controlled, but it bounces higher. His kick serve was bouncing well over Sabalenka's head every single time, going in with very high rate of accuracy, easily over 80%, 90%. It looked like a serve that would probably be difficult for really even anybody outside of top 500 ATP to return. So I think Kyrgios's talent and effort level may have been a little bit underrated there just because he's so great. I thought that Sabalenka was relatively impressive given the circumstances. It's also like if you look at it from a UTR perspective, from the Universal Tennis Rating, Kyrgios is around like a 15.75. Sabalenka sits around a 13 flat. Usually, when the differential in UTR rating is close to 3 points, it's expected to be a double bagel, or maybe you lose 2 to 3 games maximum. So Sabalenka actually put up a really solid fight. Took advantage of what Nick was giving her and made it look respectable for sure. But of course, Nick did what he needed to do to bring it home when it mattered. So I enjoyed it. I can't say it's something I look forward to more than a match between two players that are competitively matched with each other. But they are two players that I personally enjoy watching, enjoy their personalities. So I had a lot of fun watching it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a good thing for the sport of tennis. And like we said, who knows if there'll be more coming up. And, Kyrgios won, which was expected. We will see if he gets a wild card into the Australian Open. That's still a hotly debated topic. But talking about the Australian summer, so this week we're starting with the United Cup. That starts this week on January the 2nd, obviously with the time difference in the US. Always look out for that. Last year was won by the US team, the year before by Germany. So, the US team would be favorites. I think that right behind them would be the Polish team of Iga and Hubie Hurkacz. So that's a fun tournament. And then we have the 250s and 500s starting next Sunday as well. So, any of those tournaments that speak to you, Nathan?
I really enjoy the United Cup, and I know that we discussed the Davis Cup and kind of the lack of competition or competitive nature that was going on there in like a team-based, country-based competition. But last year, the United Cup brought like a lot of flair, a lot of intensity. Obviously, players are going to be more dialed in when it's like right before that first major, right at the beginning of the season. You got a lot to prove and to win. But I mean, I know you had mentioned it last episode that your op, Alexander Zverev, had played some great doubles with his countrywomen and brought home the championship. And I thought that Iga and Hubie Hurkacz had played some great doubles together as well. Um, I honestly had not kept up enough to know that Hubie's like kind of back and healthy because I know he had a lot of injuries last year. And he's definitely somebody that I look forward to seeing back on tour. He's kind of a staple serve bot to, well, he's more than a serve bot. He's got ground strokes, but he's a staple, big, consistent server to kind of benchmark other players against, in my opinion. But yeah, I'd love to see it. I think Poland's got a chance. I think Germany's always got a chance. The US, I think obviously Fritz, like this is maybe his third year really kind of hovering around top five. So this is a big chance for him to establish that he's here to stay in that top five, that he loves putting in the work and he's been phenomenal and pretty much just being solid in every aspect. So I'd love to see if he can maybe carry us and obviously men's and women's combined, the U.S. like we bring the most firepower because we easily have the best all-around women's team players. So yeah, I mean, I'm always interested to see who's coming out strongest, who's taking the first tournament. I think it's a good indicator for maybe the Australian Open. And yeah, it's just fun to watch. It's on at the middle of the night, unfortunately, for us here in America. That's really the toughest part with the Australian swing. Um, but besides that, like what I can catch on either recording or having insomnia, I look forward to watching for sure.
Yeah, and just on the note of injured players, did want to speak a little bit about Jack Draper pulling out of the Australian Open, and obviously, as a result of that, of the Australia swing, the tournaments beforehand. So, he's been out for some time now, dealing with that elbow injury. Withdrew from the U.S. Open after the first round. So he's been someone that has been cracking on the top players. Obviously, won 1,000 last year. I don't think he was really going to contend to win the title in Australia, but just another person that Sinner and Alcaraz don't have to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously disappointing to see him withdraw and like he's dealt with just so many injury concerns and they haven't maybe been as visible as some other players, so he catches a little bit more flack for it because I mean, I've definitely seen him withdraw more than a couple times in matches where he maybe doesn't appear injured, but obviously he knows his body better than anyone else and as someone that's chronically injured myself, like I know that injuries don't always show to other people like what's bothering you. So it's always a shame to be missing him because, he's got the lefty game, he's got just huge ground strokes, and anybody that kind of brings a different aspect like with that left-handedness and just the huge ground strokes, like he's a disruptor, like he's obviously given struggles to Sinner and Alcaraz. He's beaten Alcaraz multiple times. I believe I'm not sure if he's beaten Sinner, but I know he's definitely taken him close in matches. So he's obviously going to be missed trying to disrupt the top two. It's very clearly them versus the fields at this point in the tennis world, with them having won the last seven majors. So yeah, it's always disappointing to see him out, and hopefully he's able to get back soon. along with my boy Holger. I'm gonna sneak him in there real quick.
Absolutely. So I wanted to get into a little bit of a discussion, a little preview for 2026 to talk about who you think is going to have a good season and who you think is going to have a bad season. So we're going to do a little bit of a risers and fallers segment. I'm going to start with the WTA and Nathan is going to break down the ATP. Do you want to go first, Nathan, or do you want me to start off?
I'll go ahead and go first. Actually, I'm gonna
Okay.
let you go because I think people are gonna be more excited to hear me talk. Unsurprisingly so, of course. But I'm gonna go ahead and flip it to we're gonna be dropping the players that we think are gonna drop, and we're gonna be lobbing the players we think are gonna do well. Kind of a drop or lob extended edition. So give me three players that you're lobbing for next year. Give me three players that you're dropping for the WTA, or you can do however many you want. I've got mine ready. I've got some interesting pulls that I'm sure will grab a reaction out of you.
Perfect. So I got two
And I'd love
players.
to hear what you've got for me. So take it away.
So I have two players that are going to be dropped, okay?
All right.
And those are the following WTA players. Number one, Mira Andreeva,
Hater. Hater.
okay? Right now, she's sitting at nine. She's sitting at nine in the world. I would say at one point this year, this upcoming year, she'll be outside the top 20, okay?
End the
She didn't
podcast.
improve
End the podcast,
too
dude.
much last year. She had some nice results after the Australian Open, obviously working with Conchita, but ultimately her emotional state is still getting in the way of her tennis. She reminds me a little bit of Rublev, and she's becoming very predictable with that slice forehand out wide on the deuce side. She also slices the backhand a lot, but she does have a nice backhand down the line. Ultimately, I think that players are catching on to her game, and I think she'll be outside the top 20. The second player I have for
Hater.
you that I'm dropping is Louis Bousson from France. She's currently ranked 36. I predict at some point next year she'll be outside the top 75. Of course, she had a great run at the French Open, and she's been getting into a lot of the main draw of the WTA. However, her results have been not so good after the French Open. She'll have a lot of points to defend at the French Open. After she loses all those points, she'll be back in the challengers and fighting her way back. So those are the two ladies that I see dropping. And it's not hatred. Actually, Buisson, she plays a lot like me, heavy with the forehand and slices the backhand and kicks the serve. But ultimately, again, the ladies figure out that game and they get used to the spin. She doesn't have enough firepower to put the ladies away. So look for her to drop. Okay. And then the one lady who I am going to lob, who I actually don't really like that much. So just to prove that I'm not a hater, is Clara Towson. She's sitting at number 12 right now. And I'm predicting that she will not only enter the top 10, but she will make a semifinal of a Grand Slam and she'll win 1,000. I think she's going to do a great job in the Australian Open. Out of all the players that I've seen on social media, she's the one that's training the most in the off season. Looks like she's in great shape. She's a little lazy on the court sometimes, which I believe that that she would, agree herself. But she has the shots, she has the firepower. She's an Anisimova type player with flat shots that go through the court. Let's see for her to do a big jump this year.
I could see if she gets disciplined on the footwork, but I don't know how easy it is to just simply decide that you're going to be disciplined with your footwork. Like, I mean, I know that she had a final against Naomi Osaka that she actually did win last year, where Osaka was forced to retire after the first set while ahead, and that she had some decent major results. She definitely can hit with anyone. She was giving huge troubles to, I believe, Iga last year at one of the majors as well. Um, I don't remember completely if she won the match. I think she might have actually knocked out Iga, if not coming close to it. I'll go ahead and find that soon. But yeah, she definitely has that ability to hit with and hang with anybody. So I can see what you're saying there. Mira is my girl, so can't go with you on that one. I've been calling her rising up the rankings for the last couple of years, and I think that she'll adjust just as much as anybody else. Boison's another one that I was calling to rise up the rankings a couple of years ago in the tutorial ACL. I definitely did not expect this much success from her last year. Uh, I could see that going either way. I definitely like the way you explained that. So for me, I actually picked three risers and three fallers for the ATP, which will say three players I'm going to lob, three players I'm going to drop. Just giving myself more chances to be right. Of course, if they're wrong, we will be ignoring that when we recap. None of these are maybe the most controversial hot takes, probably following a relatively similar pattern, but go ahead and get into it. So for the risers, the first player that I'm going to lob, and I think that this one's pretty common amongst the tennis world, is Rafael Hodar. He was just in the ATP Next Gen. He's currently ranked 168 in the world. He's playing college tennis at University of Virginia. He didn't really play too many college matches this past season. Actually, did not even qualify for the Division One singles finals because he hadn't played enough college. I think he'll definitely be taking his focus to the main tour after he beat Leonard Tien at the ATP Next Gen finals and showed that he could compete with top talent, for sure. He's been pretty dominant on the American Challenger circuit. He won a couple tournaments late last year, and I think he can definitely keep grinding, see himself maybe get a major berth or two and crack the top 100 this next year, maybe even top 75 near the end of the year if he really presses on with the way he's been playing. And then I've got two guys that are way, way down in the rankings. One of them we've done a whole episode on. You already know where I'm going. Um, the other guy, I'm gonna go with Andres Santamarta Roig. He is 18 years old. He won the Sunshine Double last year, which is two of the biggest tournaments for juniors in the state of Florida. He's had some really solid results in the Pro Tour. He just beat Jeffrey Blankenau last month, who's like world number 275 from France. Blankenau is also beating guys like Brooksby and other top talents within that same month. Obviously, if you play the who beat who degrees of separation in tennis, you could come up with some pretty wacky players that you think are going to get good. But when you logic in the fact that he's beaten four top 500 players with pretty much ease in the last month he was playing, I think he'll come out this next season dialed on the clay courts. He's got really strong ground strokes. The serve lacks a little bit, but that's something that obviously can develop as he gains a little bit of strength, a little bit of age. So I think he could maybe even crack inside the top 300 this upcoming year. And then last of all, we've got Cruz Hewitt. You already knew I was going there. He's currently at world number 734. I'm not going to call top 100 again for this section of the pod just because I don't want to make Edic lose his marbles over there. But I'd already pretty much been through it all before. I think Cruz got special backhand. I think the forehand, obviously, he really loads back too much, uses a lot of wrist. Maybe kind of Nick Kyrgios-esque with about a tenth of the talent, but I think that with a dad that's former world number one and probably the second best tennis federation in the world, in my opinion, working behind him, he can work on those issues. He's got a strong serve, good hands at net, plays a lot of doubles. I think to be safe, I'll say we could also see him cracking maybe the top 400 to be safe, 250 to be a little bit bolder, and then when he really goes all the way, I'll be taking all Edic's money at the end of next year. And then in terms of the fallers, didn't
Wait,
want
hold on a second.
no,
Hold
no,
on a
no, no,
second.
no. Edic's gonna give me
Let me just
terrible
butt in real
WTA takes
quick,
today. He's gonna argue on the
real quick,
ATP.
real
The
quick,
audacity.
real quick, real
Why
quick,
don't you have the audacity? Go ahead,
real
speak.
quick. You picked three irrelevant players
Hmm.
who will continue to be irrelevant by the end of 2026. Not to mention, you said Cruz Hewitt was going to be in the top 100, and now you're saying, oh, 400, 250.
He'll go all the way there.
You got to stick to one thing and keep it like that. You can't
he'll
be
go.
like
Don't worry.
wishy-washy.
Don't worry. He'll do all of it. Honestly, what's the fun in picking relevant players to rise, Attic? Everybody knows that relevant players are good. I picked relevant players to fall, to drop. I picked players that
Give me the
you
people
might
that are
consider
gonna
them
drop.
irrelevant. You
Move
might
on
cons
to the people you're dropping.
you might consider them irrelevant to lob, but some of us are real tennis watchers, people that are students of the game, kind of looking at all levels, trying to really see the trends, what comes next.
Sure.
I know you're too busy playing UTR tournaments, losing tiebreakers 17-15, but
Man,
some of
hey,
us are
don't go
watching.
there. You don't want to go
Oh, I
there.
went there. I
You don't
went there.
want to
We can
go
bring that
there.
up.
Not
We
with
can bring that
me.
up. You don't want to know what's in the drop or lob segment at the end of this episode
You
now.
want to know what the score was the last time me and you played?
I think it was 6-4, 6-2.
Whatever it was, I
It
beat
was
you.
6-4, 6-2. I was there. I was quite proud of that result, by the way. Edic is rated about a similar ranking as Kyrgios is to Sabalenka between him and I. So me and him. So yeah,
Let's hear
that's
the
it's
people
not a
you're
bad
dropping.
ranking. And
You
with that,
know,
the fallers. Hey, don't worry, you're not on my fallers list.
I
I
was gonna
didn't pick
say I'm
irrelevant
dropping
players
your
on the
tennis
fallers
game
list.
next year. I'm
Didn't
dropping your tennis game next year.
I'm dropping yours. Don't worry. Actually,
No
I'll lob
shot.
yours. I'll lob yours. Anyway, for the fallers, my first and favorite faller, Sebastian Baez, world number 45 right now. Huge struggles in the past year, everywhere outside of the South American clay swing, where he's known to gather pretty much all of his ranking points. Could barely win a hard court match outside of that. He's obviously undersized. His serve's lacking. He relies a lot on his movement. He relies a lot on being consistent. Um, that's something that I've seen it with every sport. Just kind of fades pretty rapidly with age. So as he kind of hits his 30s, like it's natural to think that he's going to take a decline. He's already been in that direction this past year. I could very easily see Sebastian Baez falling outside of the top 100 this year. Um, not winning too many matches, maybe even deciding to take a break at some point and kind of recouping because I don't think he'll have too much fun just grinding the Challenger Tour every week. My second player that I'm dropping, and also second favorite to drop, is going to be Alexandre Muller of France. I'm actually a fan of his game. I think that he's all around pretty solid, but I also don't think he does anything especially special that really stands out. He likes to be pretty aggressive and kind of take the ball early, kind of move into the court. And this past year, he started off really hot, had won a tournament, had made it deep in another one, maybe even won two tournaments to start the year. And then just kind of down the stretch of this past year, fell off pretty hard. He had like one I would call it lucky win against Jan Leonard Struff this past month where he like saved 4 match points in a tiebreaker. Stuff that maybe I don't expect him to replicate coming into this current season. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of front end pressure on him to keep his ranking high, and if he can't do that, then the pressure to not be just kind of a challenger tour constant again is going to be heavy on him throughout the backside of the year. I could see him also falling towards the bottom of the top 100, maybe outside. And then the third player that I'm dropping, and this is easily my boldest one. I can't say that I'm 100% fully behind this, but you got to take shots to make shots, and I think there's some validity behind it. We're gonna go with world number 26, Luciano Darderi of Italy. Darderi's an absolute beast on the clay. Won back-to-back clay court tournaments this year, ATP 250s against pretty strong competition. And he did, I think, maybe luck out a little bit in that in the finals he faced a couple players who were kind of just having a sun run of a week instead of players that were more consistently at the top of the tour. But then he really struggled. He lost 9 of his last 10 matches, ending the season. Lost a lot of matches on the hard courts. A lot of the players that he beat were, I mean, 98% of players are probably technically below in the rankings, but he was losing, or most of his wins were coming against players that were rated a decent amount lower than him that he was relatively expected to beat, or players that were maybe struggling through even harder of a time. So, once again, a guy that's kind of relatively dependent on one part of the tour season. Serve's not the strongest. He does hit big, but he plays inconsistent. His fitness is definitely not top on tour, and not a guy that I've maybe seen show the most mental fortitude in some of these other matches, in my personal opinion. I'm gonna say he could fall out of the top 50 pretty easily this upcoming season, maybe even closer to 75, which is still a pretty big drop down from number 26 in the rankings.
Yeah, I think that those are really, that's a good analysis, especially, that last one. Again, irrelevant players that will probably drop. I agree with you on all three of those. And ultimately, especially with Baez, there are clay court players that really succeed and get a lot of points during one part of the season. So it is very likely if, they don't make up points in the other parts or they're defending a lot of points, then they will drop. So I think those are educated picks overall.
Thank you, Edic.
You're welcome. And
Appreciate you being supportive after that debacle that just went on there on the previous three. I don't think those players are going to appreciate you calling them irrelevant when they're all top 100 in about a year and a half. Uh,
I
just
don't
letting
think
you know.
they'll. We'll see. Time will tell. Now it's time for two hot takes, two bold takes. Let's go one each, and I'm going to start with one from the ATP Tour side, and mine is that Carlos Alcaraz will only win one Grand Slam this coming year.
Would you care to elaborate on that statement?
I'll elaborate because if you think about this past year, he almost only had one with the US Open. He should have lost the French Open, lost Australia, lost Wimbledon. So he really should have only had one. He was 1 point away from only having one Grand Slam. I think Sinner's only getting better. I haven't seen his game evolve. With the coaching situation, it's, a little bit in shambles right now. If I had to pick one that he's going to win, I would say it'll be French Open. But ultimately, I think that Sinner is just too strong right now. I like Alcaraz more. Trust me, I want him to win all four. But I just don't think that he has it in store right now. So I'll say one Grand Slam.
That's funny you say that because honestly, my hot take was that Sinner's going to win the entire calendar slam this year. So I think I'm relatively on the same page as you. I mean, Yannick Sinner, it's going to become a point where the entire debate is just saying his name and nothing more needs to be said at this point. Like he's robotic, he's consistent, he's a killer, he's got the mentality, he's got the ground strokes, all that good stuff. But since you gave that hot take, I'm going to give an even hotter take. One that's definitely going to piss off one of Edic's good friends and maybe some other people. But Novak Djokovic drops, and this is another guy I considered for my drop segment, but I felt like it was too hot to put in there. Outside of the top 25 this year in the rankings, I think that Novak's just no good, no more. I think eventually everyone's body has to give out, no matter who you are. I don't care if you're Messi, Ronaldo, LeBron, Brady, like Serena, like what goat you are, who you are. Father Time, I heard the statement today that Father Time comes after us all. Um, so I just think that eventually it's got to happen for Novak. And that doesn't mean that Novak Djokovic is still not going to be better than 99% of the players on the tour. I just think that Novak's going to come out. I think that if he loses in one major, even say in the quarterfinals, because he's really stalking about 90% of his ranking points right now for the majors. Once one player shows that Novak Djokovic is beatable, that the cracks are there, that's going to give the rest of the tour so much confidence that they can really take a shot at him. And all it's going to take is one early round loss from Novak in any of the four major tournaments this year. It's not going to be Wimbledon most likely, but maybe at the French Open, a grinder, maybe at the U.S. Open later in the season. He's just kind of feeling worn out for whatever reason. Maybe he misses one of the majors outright this year, due to injury. But I just think that it's really only going to take one bad result to really take Novak down, and that once again, I think someone somewhere gets the best of him. Maybe it's Sinner, Alcaraz in a semi. Maybe it's just one of those other guys up there. Maybe Fritz. I'd love to say it could be Taylor Fritz, but that like 0 and 13 record is really just looming strong right now. Um, One of those top guys, even a Hubie Hurkacz if he's healthy. It's just really that the tour is honestly not looking insanely strong at the moment. I think it's probably the most talented the tour's ever been. I just don't really know how many players are truly in that spot. I'd love to see Felix be the one to do it, I'll tell you that. I think we're both big Felix Auger-Aliassime fans here. He's in the top five now. We've both been rooting for him to ascend. I'd love to see Felix be the guy to maybe take Novak out once, but yeah, I think Novak, he's currently sitting, by the way, at world number four, I should say, for context. Could fall all the way down outside of the top 25. And in addition, I'll add to that hot take that I think his major window has in fact closed. Um, and that I still think he is the greatest player ever. He's not my favorite ever. I do think he's the greatest. I think it's undeniable. But I just think that this has to be his year where he falls off. It's got to happen at some point.
I like that take. Ultimately, I agree that that's very likely to happen. I don't necessarily think it will be because he plays badly, but sort of along the lines of what you're saying. He might do really well in three of the Grand Slams and then miss one of the Grand Slams. And then because he's playing fewer tournaments, he might not even play 10 tournaments next year and other people are gaining points, he drops out. So ultimately, I think he'll still play well, but he might drop just because of
Yeah.
inactivity. And I agree with you. And I was having a discussion the other day with one of my friends, good friends that's a big fan of him, is I think that Djokovic is the greatest athlete of all time across sports. And we don't have to get into this conversation now,
Maybe
but
for another pod. We can definitely do for another
athleticism,
pod.
cardio, no one, flexibility, he can go to any sport and be perfectly fine.
I think every sports goat, every major sports goat, loved Tiger Woods besides golf, even though he was a demon just because of what golf entails. But I think a lot of the major sports goats would have a good argument of being the greatest athlete of all time. That's something we can get
Athleticism,
into.
athleticism, Tom Brady can't last 5 minutes on a tennis court.
Yeah,
Cardio.
no, tennis is great. We'll
Just
definitely
saying.
Novak's not throwing touchdowns, but we'll go into another episode for sure.
Just saying.
Since you've got the hot take cannon ready to go, are you ready for some drop or lob to close this out? I'll go ahead and ask you the questions. You let me know what you're dropping, what you're lobbing.
Let's do it.
All right, drop or lob. We're running back the battle of the sexes next year. Different players. I think we get Alcaraz in there next year, and I think on the women's side. Please not Emma Raducanu. Please not. I'm sorry, Emma. Nothing against you personally, but I don't want to ship that anymore. But Alcaraz and maybe we see an Iga in there. Maybe we see an Anisimova in there. Maybe we see a Rybakina even in there. I think Rybakina could be interesting because she's got the serve to make things a little bit interesting. But drop her lob, running it back again.
Big drop, big drop. No need to see it. Sabalenka's your best shot because she can hit hard. She moves pretty well and has a lot of spin. She plays sort of like a guy. Elena has a big serve, but really struggles movement wise. So it wouldn't be
Yeah.
anything. I'm sorry.
I think Alcaraz might be hitting a double big on that match now that I think more about it, and that's no offense to Elena, who I know now that I'd seen you've written in the notes that you thought she could win multiple slams this year, which isn't something out of the question. So yeah, I also don't think I need to see it again, but I'm definitely happy I saw it. I know there had been some debate. I thought those two were a good face for it for sure. It was definitely fun. Drop or lob, the tour format will be completely revamped by the end of 2026, or else the players will go into lockout.
You talking about the schedule?
I'm talking about the scheduling format, like how many matches they have to play, amount of required tournaments, just the calendar in general, amount of time off. Let's say
Drop.
for the top 100, are we dropping or lobbing that if they don't get a change this next year? I think there's been a lot of players outspoken with displeasure. So yeah, drop or lob, it's either changed or they're out by then next
Drop, drop. The
year. Okay.
ATP has too much power. This is not like the NBA or the NFL or the MLB where you have a lot of player rights. This is more along the lines of the UFC of MMA with independent contractors. There's just too much for the players to lose and not enough of them banding together. It's not going to happen. Players' rights are not as important as in the other sports. It's just how
I
it's
hear
done.
that. What I will say to counter that real quick is that I think obviously Saudi Arabia and the Middle East has taken a pretty big interest in tennis amongst other sports, and it's been pumping a lot of money in between the Six Kings Slam, the Battle of the Sexes here, some other tournaments. Should they choose to point that towards a tour, kind of what happened with the PGA and the LIV, giving maybe the players even a third option on top of the UTR tour, on top of the main tour, definitely could maybe make players rethink or give them some leverage in negotiating a better schedule. Like I know Deminor is pretty upset about it. Rude wasn't thrilled. Even like Alcaraz and Sinner, and it's just some of the top players kind of expressed their displeasure. Maybe not verbally, but just by the amount of time that they take off and show that like it works better for them and they can afford it. Obviously, yes, the players' unions can speak for everyone, but Novak's the head of that group still, as far as I'm aware, and obviously will be standing up for the players and what's best for them. I would drop it, but not nearly as hard as you're dropping it. I definitely think that there's probably about a 30% chance of that being lobbed. So we will see what happens. I think there are other potential formats of the tour that we can discuss in a future episode as well. Maybe with if we can get someone on here that has a little bit more insight into it. I got someone in mind we'll discuss later. So, Drop or lob? Alcaraz, who just lost or parted ways with his coach Juan Carlos Ferrero last week, would be better off by not having any people with the last name Nadal in his coaching box this upcoming season.
I'm gonna drop that, meaning he would be better off with Nadal.
And that's either Nadal, that's Rafa or Tony.
Right, right. Because of course the publicity and all of the rumors and drama, of course, it's going to bring a lot of attention. But at the end of the day, if you ask me just on paper, would you rather have an adult in your box or not? Of course you want him. Of course, it's a no-brainer. So he's better off with him.
I would have lobbed that. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know. I mean, they're phenomenal. And Tony was a great coach for Rafa. Tony wasn't as great of a coach for Felix. And obviously Felix isn't Carlos. But I mean, Rafa, he's incredible for mentality. Maybe as a mental coach specifically, he could provide a lot of value to Carlos. But I don't think, despite the fact that people see a lot of Carlos and Rafa, and the fact that they're both Spanish, they're both young phenoms, athletic like warriors. I mean, Rafa's a lefty. He's got different form. He played somewhat of a different game style. Tony already didn't have success with this last player. Maybe going with a guy that really had to work for it, like a Ferrer, another like guy that's already established as a good coach that's produced winning results, I think might be a better move for him than to just go for the move that seems right in terms of the fact that they've achieved a lot of success in the past. But obviously, he should definitely be, and I'm sure he is, in contact with Nadal's in some way, shape, or form because they surely have plenty of valuable advice for him. I just don't think they should be the guys traveling in the box. But that's just me. I'm glad that we had one we differentiated on. And then we'll end with a non-tennis drop or lob. I go get a haircut tomorrow because, geez,
I will I will lob it because I'll probably
good.
get a haircut before the new year as well. And I
Been
did want
pissing
to
me off all
say
episode. I'm glad you lobbed
did
it.
want to say to finish the episode that Novak Djokovic is the greatest athlete of all time, and that I heard you are the worst Catan player of all time.
That is in fact something that if we were dropping or lobbing me getting lost in Catan over 50% of the time I played, we'd be lobbing it. I like to think of myself as a strategy game guy, but I haven't locked down the strategy. I'll be practicing and putting in the work. Would look forward to coming back to you to let you know how much better I've gotten at both tennis and Catan. Um, so I think we'll keep grinding at some tennis, we'll keep grinding at some Catan, and we'll keep grinding at these podcast episodes for you guys every Sunday night. We'll be getting them out at 8 p.m. We just had the one minor setback last week or 2 weeks ago, but there shouldn't be anything holding us back from it this upcoming year. We having guests. There's going to be tournaments every week. We're very excited to put out content for you guys once a week, sometimes more, and to get to continue talking tennis for all of you. So for episode number 10 of the Drop Lob, not Dropper Lob, by the way, at a Drop Lob Pod. We're working on him over there. It's okay. Been Nathan. It's my co-host Edic. I want to wish you guys a happy new year, and we will see you in 2026.
Go Birds.
Go Giants. It's painful to say.